Hello, hello everybody! Welcome! Happy Saturday! Alright, just checking to make sure I am on here. Yep, there I am. Alright, fantastic! We are doing our Valentine's Day themed live playdate today, so I'm just gonna wait for a couple people to jump on and then we'll get started. Alright. I think everything is looking good. I just have my iPad set up here so that I'll be able to see the comments once I turn the camera down. Yay, some people are jumping on. Hello, let me know where you're watching from. Hey, Tahisha. All right. Fantastic. And if you guys don't mind, please share this broadcast. I would very, very much appreciate it if you shared it on your page or to your sugar groups. We're going to be making some chocolate-filled lollipops today, so I'll show you a couple of examples. Very perfect for Valentine's Day, little extra treat instead of just sugar or Isomalt lollipops. And then I also made a little shaker version here. So I'm going to show you guys all of my tricks on how to get the chocolate in there without burning the chocolate and to kind of get it into different shapes, because you could definitely change these up from hearts to a whole bunch of different themes. So I will be showing you how I do those. And we will brainstorm lots and lots of ideas for this technique, I'm sure, as we always do in our lives and classes. All right. Everything looks good on yours, Mom? Cool. Make sure, let me know if you guys hear me okay and see me okay before we get started. I'll just wait another minute or two here. Tahisha says, hi, Michelle.
Hi, Tahisha.
Hope you're doing good, Tahisha. Make sure I have everything I need here. Okay. I usually preheat my Isomalts before the live just so that they're a little warm, so it's quicker to reheat them completely once I'm ready. So I'm just going to pop my first color, which is going to be the red that I'm using, in the microwave for another 30 seconds. Alright, so I am using the accessory kit that goes along with this project. So with my lives, you guys know I usually do a discounted accessory kit, so the accessory kits are 20% off when all bundled together with all the tools that you need. So this one is going to have the colors of Isomalt that you're going to need, the clear and the red. It's also going to have the molds that you're going to need, so that is going to be the lollipop mold. And then I'm also using the Shaker Maker lollipop mold to show you guys a couple different ideas. And I'm also going to be using our secret weapon, which is going to be the Simi silicone inserts. So I'll show you how I use those to add in some depth into the Isomalt so that we can add in our chocolate. And yeah, so those are all, that kit is still available on my website if you're interested, but you can also change these up. You can use any colors of Simi Isomalt that you want to. You can use different molds if you want to decorate them differently. There's lots of ways you can customize these. Hi, Myra. Watching first, then you'll try and make them. Perfect. Yeah, let me know if you guys are going to work along with me today or if you're going to watch and try it out later. The videos are always available afterwards as well, so if you have to go at any point or you're watching later, this will all be saved on my profile, and then I always put them on my YouTube channel as well. I have a whole playlist of live videos, so you can check that out to make it a little easier to search than going through all my Facebook posts. It's fantastic. So my microwave just beeps. Let me check that. Perfect. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get started here with our lollipops. So for anybody who just jumped on, we're going to make those chocolate-filled lollipops using Isomalt and chocolate. And then I have a little shaker I will show you here. So perfect for Valentine's Day. Very easy to customize and change up. You can see that one a little bit clearer there. There we go. Alright. Hi, Matt. Welcome. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Now, I'm using Simi Isomalt today. Of course, Simi Isomalt is our brand of pre-cooked Isomalt, so it is ready to use. There's no temperatures, no recipes, nothing. This has already gone through the whole tempering process, so it's gone through the entire recipe that it needs to be cooked down to from the powder, and it's turned into the hard candy. So once you already get it in the pre-cooked hard candy, it makes it way, way easier. You don't have to worry about getting it to all of those right steps, and the recipe and all that is done. So just melt it in the microwave for 30 seconds and then 15-second intervals. Once it is melted, it should be coming to a boil, so just kind of keep checking on it. I don't like to stir it or anything like that because you don't want to mix in air bubbles, and Isomalt doesn't need the agitation like chocolate does to melt down. So you just want to check it until it comes to a boil and just pop it back in until it's ready to go. I'm going to be talking about coloring and flavoring and everything like that as well in just a couple minutes. So we will go ahead and get started. Hi Tina, welcome. All right, fantastic. So when you are working with Isomalt, as you guys probably know if you've seen or worked with Isomalt before, it's very, very hot. So I do recommend wearing gloves. You want to use usually a cotton glove and then a nitrile or latex glove layered on top of that. That is going to buffer the heat from your hands and protect them. So make sure that you're wearing your gloves and not following my bad example of not wearing the gloves today, because my hands really don't feel heat anymore from doing this for so many years. But definitely wear the gloves to protect your hands. It's always a good step to be prepared and to be cautious. So I do recommend that. But the more you work with it, the more comfortable you're going to get with it, and the easier and easier it will get, just like anything else. Practice makes perfect. Hello, 2B's Cookies. Welcome on. All right, fantastic. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to let me know. I have my iPad set up down in front of me, so I'll be able to see when I tilt my camera down. And Mom is here as well.
Hi, everybody.
And she is going to be reading out any questions that I miss. So, hey, Evelyn. Welcome, welcome. Happy Saturday, guys. Okay, so let me turn my camera down so we can see the work surface here. Give me one moment. I'm still getting used to this vertical video that Facebook wants me to do, so let's see here. All right. Okay, let me know how that looks to you guys. I think that will be all right. You can kind of see the shadow of my stand there, but I think it'll be okay. All right, fantastic. Here, I'll put that there instead so you can see that. Okay.
So Sid,
Yes.
can I ask you this question?
Yes.
Should you move your mat slightly because the words are covering it?
Sure, yeah, I could do that.
Or they can turn their phone, right?
Yeah, you can, you might be able to, yeah, you can turn your phone. You might be able to swipe away the comments, but some devices it does and some devices it doesn't. Yeah, so let me
Just
move that up.
come back a hair so you're not working where the words are.
Let me let the camera catch up for a second. How's that looking? Oh, you're still catching up.
And I think much better.
Okay, cool. Let me know, you guys, how that looks for you. Yeah, I think that was a good idea. Thank you. Put those down there. All right. Fantastic. All right, make sure I can see your comments. All right. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and start then. So the first thing we want to do is pour the lollipops to get them cooling. Now I'm going to do two different kinds of molds for the lollipops. So I'm going to use my hard candy mold. So this is just one of our molds from our website. It is super easy to use, very kind of straightforward with the lollipops there. And then I'm also going to make a shaker lollipop with the sprinkles inside. So I want to use our shaker maker. So the reason that this one is going to be different is that this is much deeper, so you'll be able to fit your sprinkles inside. It's a little bit bigger, and it's just going to be more versatile. So you can do a lot more with it. You can make the shell, you can make the back of it, you can do two shells. I'll explain all that as we go. Where this one is more of just a simple basic lollipop when you just need kind of always the same thing, and they're a little bit smaller as well. So you can switch that up depending on what shape. You can even do different shapes of lollipops. You don't have to do a specific, round shape. We are going to be inserting our little inserts, or insetting our little inserts into the molds. So these are really our secret weapon. Okay, so these are silicone inserts. These are from our website, and I chose hearts, of course, because it's almost Valentine's Day, but we have so many different silicone inserts, from flowers and like butterflies. We have under the sea. We have, just a whole bunch of different shapes of inserts, and basically these are just little kind of 3D silicone shapes that we can inset into the Isomalt, and that's how we're going to add in the chocolate. So sometimes I use these without the chocolate and I just create designs inside, and kind of they almost look like etchings when you take them out, or you can fill them with something. So you can add different kinds of fillings, you can add chocolate, like we're going to do in this case. This is the key to not burning your chocolate. So now, chocolate and Isomalt have much different temperatures when they're melted down. Isomalt is way, way hotter, and if you try and put the chocolate inside of the Isomalt, or you try and pour the Isomalt over the chocolate, it's going to burn it for sure. So we want to add the chocolate afterwards, and these are our key to do that. Okay. Now, before I use the hard candy mold, I'm going to pour all of these kind of at the same time for now, but before I use the hard candy mold, I do want to grease it with some cooking spray. So I just want to put a little bit of that onto a paper towel. And I'm just going to do 2 of these lollipops and then 1 of the shakers, but of course you can do as many as you like at a time, depending on how many inserts you have. We did 3 in the kit so that you can follow along with my process here. Okay. Alright, so I'm just greasing those. Now I do not have to grease the silicone one. Silicone does not need to have grease on it to release, so I am only doing the hard candy. And you will need to re-grease this mold every time you use it. At least I like to, just to make sure that it is going to remove out of the mold properly. So I just did a nice thin but even coat, especially making sure you get kind of in the bottom corner of that mold so that it releases nicely. Okay, doing okay. Alright, perfect.
Yep. Hi, Carol. Hi, Stacy.
Hey, guys.
Hi, Joni.
Welcome, welcome. Okay, so now the little trick of those silicone inserts is I'm just going to set those into the mold. So it's really as easy as that. You can position them however you want. You can do it perfectly straight. You can do them kind of a little bit crooked and whimsical. You could add multiples of these. So if I wanted to do like 2 hearts into that one, that would be really cute as well. You can change it up however you like to, and these can be set into any mold that you want. So the grease won't affect these. I don't have to actually grease these, but the grease underneath is not going to affect these. And you can also set them, these are really good to be paired with our Simi Flex Form molds, the strips of silicone that you can make into different shapes, because when you pour over these and then remove them afterwards, they are just going to add designs inside of your showpiece or your cake topper or whatever you're making. So I'm just centering them. And it's really as easy as that. You can see it basically just adds on to your mold, and we're going to pour directly over it. Okay. So I was starting to melt my Isomalt. Let's see how it's going here. Yeah, these should be good. So whenever you're melting the Isomalt, like I said, you want to put it in the microwave for 30 seconds and then 15-second intervals until it's a liquid. So very, very easy to melt down. And then you can start with a color. So like I said, if you're doing the accessory kit, it already has the colors that you're going to need for this specific project, or you can change it up to whatever colors of Isomalt that you have. Now, if you're starting from clear and you want to add in your own colors, you can either use an edible airbrush color. That's going to give you the see-through transparent red like I'm using here, or you can use a powdered color like a luster dust and petal dust. But keep in mind, if you're using powdered colors, they turn the Isomalt from clear to opaque, so you would have to use the underside as the front because you won't be able to see through the Isomalt to see the design, if that makes sense, because I'm looking at it from the smooth side here, so you would have to use the other side as the top, which is fine. Just make sure that you plan your design for that. The one thing that you never ever want to mix into Isomalt is gel color. Gel color will break down the Isomalt and not allow it to dry properly, and it'll get really, really sticky, so just make sure that you're using a liquid airbrush color or a powdered color. Now, if you want to add flavoring into your Isomalt, you can definitely do that as well. So I like to use oil-based flavorings, again, for that nice glassy see-through look, because you can see that the oil is see-through. Or you can also use a powdered flavoring, because those are very intense as well. But again, remember, powders will give it the opaque finish. So just kind of plan out which kind of flavor that you want to use for the type of effect that you're going for in your finished piece. Okay, I don't really like to use extracts because the alcohol will just evaporate out and they're not going to be as concentrated. You need to add a lot more, whereas oils and powders are very, very concentrated. Okay, so I have my molds ready to go. I also have some lollipop sticks, so I'm going to use regular, just plain old white lollipop sticks for the smaller ones I'm doing, and then I'm going to use one of my clear acrylic lollipop sticks here for the shaker. I really, really love these lollipop sticks, and I got a lot of questions about these because they are really unique. I have these on my Amazon storefront, which is on the shop page on simicakes.com. Not the store, but the actual page that says shop, and so these are linked on there, and I really, really like these because they're so unique looking, and they almost look like glass or like Isomalt with it, so they match up really nicely and just kind of add that extra edge, in my opinion. Okay, and now all we're going to do is we're going to pour it in. So I brought the Isomalt to a boil. It's important to bring it to a boil to get all the air bubbles out so that you don't have any air pockets or anything like that, and then I let it settle at room temperature. So you can see now it's still quite liquid and going to be easily pourable, but it's not actively boiling and bubbling. So when it's boiling and bubbling, just let it sit until it stops, and this is what we're left with, that nice clear glassy Isomalt that we're just going to pour in. Remember, wearing your gloves. And I'm pouring it directly over top of that insert. Okay, so just see how I poured it to cover up the silicone. You can also pour around it if you wanted a hole inside of your piece or your lollipop or your sculpture, whatever you're going to do. You could also just have a hole that shape, so you could pour around instead. There's not quite enough space around this one to do that, but with the larger lollipop mold I could. And I'm just being careful not to really overflow into where the stick is going to lay, but if it does a little bit, that's no big deal. Okay. There we go. And then I'm just going to lightly torch. If you have any little air bubbles, now Simi Isomalt doesn't have any air mixed in to start with, so you can see as long as you bring it to that nice boil to get any rogue air pockets out, you're not going to have any bubbles in it after you brought it to a boil and let it settle. But if you get like 1 or 2 stray bubbles that rise to the top, you can lightly torch to pop them. But with this mold specifically, be careful about that because the hard candy molds are not quite as durable as the silicone. And so I'm just going to stick the lollipop stick in there and then kind of twist it and roll it so that it covers all the way around right at the bottom of that point. Easy as that, okay? So really pretty. Flip it around so you can see it from the front here. I'm probably tilting them all over the place, so they might come out a little bit less round now, but that's okay. So you can see how easy that was. We're just going to let that cool for about probably 10 minutes or so, 10 to 15 minutes, just depending on the temperature of the room that you are working in. I have like my little fan here. I'm just going to use that to help the airflow so that it cools down a little bit faster. Let's see, prop it up on something here. You don't want to put Isomalt in the fridge or the freezer because the moisture and condensation will affect it, but if you need to rush it, you can make it cooler in the room or you can use your little fan. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this one of pouring the red right on top. And now I'm going to make a shaker with this, but I'm going to do this in 2 parts. This first part, I'm only pouring enough to cover the bottom like I did with the other 2. And then the second part, I'm going to create the dome that's going to go on top. But for this one, I just want it to be flat, or the center part will be a little bit raised because of that heart. But we're not actually filling this all the way to the top, otherwise it would be very chunky with how deep this mold is, since it's made to make the shaker. So just filling enough to cover the bottom, and I'm going to let that one cool as well off to the side. Now this one doesn't have the slot for the lollipop stick because you add that afterwards with this one, because I wanted it to be as versatile as possible to create both halves of the shaker. We didn't want to have a slot in there that the Isomalt's going to run out of, so I'm going to show you how to add the lollipop stick afterwards, which also gives you tons more options to use molds that aren't lollipops molds for lollipops. So you could really use any, even if it's a 3-dimensional mold, you can turn anything into a lollipop with Isomalt. All right. So setting that one next to my others to cool. All right. You guys have any questions so far? Everybody doing okay? Check here. Sounds good. Sounds good. Hey, Patricia. All right. It's fantastic. Okay, so I have that other acrylic lollipop stick I'm just going to put off to the side. And now in the meantime, I'm going to melt down some of my clear to create that shell. So the shell is going to add the shaker effect. So I had melted that down a little bit, but then of course it solidified. That is the beauty of Isomalt though, is that you can remelt it over and over. So as long as you haven't painted it or added the chocolate or anything like that, it's just the Isomalt pieces that haven't been glazed, you can remelt them over and over. So all you have to do is pop it back in the bowl, and nobody ever has to see the first ones that you do, or if you make too many of them, it's very easy to just melt it back down. Hey, Crystal's on! Thanks for popping on. I hope you have a good class today. There's my clear. It's not quite there. Just the center was starting to get a little liquidy, so we're going to melt it down for another 30 seconds. But again, I'm not stirring it in between. I'm only going to stir the Isomalt when I have to mix something into it, so like the color and the flavor. But after you stir Isomalt, you always want to reboil it. So if you have to stir it, it will mix in air bubbles, especially in those transparent colors, you'll see them. So whenever I stir, I do take it and put it back in the microwave afterwards, because hot air rises, so any air bubbles mixed in will rise and pop and boil themselves out. So it's very important to bring it back to a boil if you are going for that crystal clear look. There we go. Okay, so see how bubbly and boiling that is here. That's perfect. So you want that nice rolling boil. You do not want it to be just a tiny little foam or, you know, a couple bubbles moving here and there. You want nice, big, quick moving bubbles. Now you can burn Isomalt, so remember to stop when it starts to boil. You don't want to keep heating it, but as long as you get those nice big bubbles, you can already see it's starting to calm down a little bit. They're kind of getting slower and a little bit smaller. So we'll just let that sit for a minute or two before we actually pour the Isomalt into the mold. That way it doesn't transfer any bubbles into the mold, but it also doesn't affect the mold, because sometimes if you pour the Isomalt too hot, it can affect the molds, depending on what type you're using. Okay. Now another little trick that works really good with the inserts, but really just to make lollipops in general too, is you can also use a metal cookie cutter. Those again would be very flat. You wouldn't be able to do the dome or anything like I'm doing, but you can take a greased metal cookie cutter with some cooking spray and set that down on a piece of greased aluminum foil to pour into, and you can set the inserts in there too, and that can be very, very pretty as well. Hey Anne, you're watching at the hairdressers. That's so funny. I love it. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, so that clear is almost there. There's a couple little straggler bubbles I can see moving around, so I'm going to give it another few seconds. Okay. Let me know what you guys are planning to bake this Valentine's Day. Are you doing orders? Are you doing stuff for friends and family or for Valentine's? I love hearing what you guys are up to. Then the next, I guess it's about a week, 2 weeks? A week and a half till Valentine's Day, I think? Yeah.
Less than 2 weeks.
Less than 2 weeks.
Week and a half, yep.
Alright. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pour this now that the bubbles have stopped. We're going to do that shell, like I said, so we're not going to fill this all the way up and leave it. We're actually going to fill and drain it, okay? So I'm just going to take that clear after it's calmed down and is not bubbling, and I'm going to fill the mold all the way to the top, and then very carefully with gloved hands for sure, I'm going to drain it out. So the first one I only poured enough to cover the bottom, but this time I do want to create that dome effect. I'm just using a second mold because I have a bunch of these, but you can just use the same mold after the first part of it cools with the heart in it. Okay. And I'm just poured that out immediately. You don't have to wait for it to cool in the mold any amount of time. And I actually don't even mind if every little last drop doesn't drain out, because it'll all, while it's still nice and hot, it will all pool back down at the bottom, and it'll actually make the surface of this lollipop a little bit thicker and stronger if it's not paper thin. So the edges will probably fall back down and be a little bit thinner, but the bottom part of it will be slightly thicker, and I don't mind that at all. So I don't worry about draining every last drop out of it, because it will actually add to the strength of this piece. I'm just making sure around the outside edge that it all got filled up enough. And then what I do is, if you can see, I don't know if you can see with the lighting, but there's a little bit of Isomalt that is just on the edge of the mold here. I'm going to start with a silicone tool or a toothpick, not your finger, and I'm just going to start pulling that away, and it probably won't work very well until it starts to cool about where it is right now, so you may have to wait a minute or so. But I'm just going to pull away some of that excess. Now you can take these, like hot chocolate bombs, the hot cocoa bombs, you can take these when they're cool and flip them over and press them onto an electric griddle or a skillet to clean up and level off the top edge. But this helps a lot with just making sure that some of that excess is gone, and then you can just remelt it. So I just threw that back in the bowl. I have a whole bunch of little Isomalt strings on this now. Here we go. And we're going to let that one cool as well. So I don't do a second coat on those because I don't want them to be too heavy. Okay. There we go. Alright, check on the comments. All good, all good. Alright. So I put that one in front of my little fan to cool. Again, you don't have to put it in front of the fan if you have more patience than I do, but just for demo purposes and my own impatience purposes, I'm putting it in front of the fan to help it cool down a little bit quicker. Especially if you need to make a few of these. Okay, so these first ones that we poured are already cooled down now. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and unmold those. So because we greased them, they should just pop right out. So I'm just flexing it like an ice cube tray. And then taking that right out. Super duper pretty. Love it. The other one here. Super duper pretty. This is the one I accidentally tilted the mold a little bit when I was doing it, but that's okay. It's whimsical, right? Alright, so you can see that you have that really pretty heart in there, but we're actually going to remove that silicone insert. So you can see from the back of it, that yellow silicone is still inside, so we want to take those away. Okay. So all I'm going to do is just grab the edge. Sometimes you need to use, if you don't have sharp nails, you need to use a toothpick or something. Try not to stab the heart, but just kind of want to get the edge like that. It comes right out. And that side looks cool, but I really, really like it from the other side. I feel like it pops really nicely, and it has sort of that three-dimensional depth to the piece, especially in person. You can kind of see it a little bit better. So again, you could leave this like this, and you can have that little heart. It uses less product, even though you still have a nice big lollipop, and it is a little bit lighter weight, so if you needed to put, you know, something heavy into the cake and you wanted to take out some space, you could definitely do that. You can also fill it with, you know, a different filling inside. You could do like a chocolate ganache, or you could do anything that hardens, really, that's not going to drip back out. Anything that solidifies, you can fill that back in. You could put marshmallow fluff or something in it, would probably be yummy. Or you can leave these, so if you wanted to have like a sculpture, I have some past Playdates where I put like some little etchings and stuff inside. Those can be just really, really pretty.
Yeah, I love the glass etchings too, and so does 2B's.
Ah, thank you.
She loves working with the inserts. So many cute ones to choose from.
Thank you. Yeah, I love the inserts. And they're one of those things where you can't have just one. You just need a whole bunch of them. They're like cookie cutters. Okay, and then that silicone is just silicone. You can use it again, so these don't go to waste. I just save them and take them out whenever I need my next project. So again, just super cute on their own. They're very, very lightweight. These are already really small to begin with, but now pretty much, I would say about probably half of the Isomalt is gone. So they're very, very lightweight. They don't use very much products. You can get a lot out of a 6-ounce bag. And yeah, so I'm going to show you how I fill those now with chocolate. So because these are cool, we don't have to worry about burning the Isomalt or the chocolate or anything like that. It's all going to mix together beautifully. So I'm going to melt down some chocolate. Alright. I think I'm going to go ahead and do this one actually too before I melt down that chocolate, because it feels like it might be ready to come out. Now this one, it might have some little bubbles on it. If you can see, it's slightly frosty. Now I actually don't mind that because I think it's really pretty when it's a little bit frosted on the underneath. And it's natural. Silicone collects bubbles when it breathes from the heat. But if you want to get rid of those, you can. I didn't have those on this one because it's not silicone, so it doesn't collect those bubbles. But on this one, I have just like the teeniest bit. You can barely even tell. But if you want to make it a little glassier, you can. The thing you have to remember, though, is leave the silicone insert in when you do this. Because if you take the silicone insert out, this coating over where the heart is extremely, extremely thin, so you don't want to melt it, because if you torch over it, it's going to melt. So I don't want to melt the silicone or burn the silicone, but I do just want to very lightly torch away the bubbles on the underside. I'm going to hold this up so you can hopefully see the difference of the side that I just torched compared to the side that I didn't. And see.
Go a little forward. No, I'm sorry, back towards you.
Towards me?
Towards you.
Ah, this way. I see. Just waiting for that lag to catch up. There we go.
There we go.
So you guys can see how see-through the side is that I torched compared to the other side that I have not. So it's a very subtle difference. It's not a huge deal if you don't do that, but I think it just adds a nice touch. And then after that cools, then we will take out the silicone insert. Okay, I'm going to set that in front of the fan for just a second to speed that one up. Alright. So I'm melting down my chocolate again. This is slightly warm, but it's definitely not pipeable anymore. But I actually like to melt my chocolate inside of my piping bags because it saves one thing that I have to clean, which is always my goal. So I'm just melting it right in the piping bag for just 15 seconds or so at a time. Now, I'm not using real chocolate for this. I am using a confectionery coating or like a candy melt because they don't need to be tempered. You could absolutely use tempered chocolate with this. If you're doing tempered chocolate for your desserts and things that you're doing, absolutely you can use it the exact same way. Just for demo's sake, I didn't want to have to temper a whole batch of chocolate to save you guys some time. So I am just melting it. Yeah, so I use like the Guittard confectionery coating or coating chocolate. Compound chocolate, there's a lot of names for it, but it doesn't have to be tempered. And I'm using white chocolate. You can also mix in a little bit of a vegetable shortening into this, or a coconut oil that's solid if you want to thin it out to make it a little more pipeable, depending on what brand you're using. Sometimes they need to be thinned. It can't be a liquid oil, it has to be an oil that hardens back down to a solid, otherwise the chocolate will never set up. Okay, so see, I'm just kind of squishing this to knead it up and make sure everything is nice and melted. Okay. I'm gonna grab my other silicone insert out really quick. Sometimes it takes a little bit of patience to Get these little things out. There we go. So that one looks really pretty. And how pretty would that be since it doesn't have the lollipop stick? I would love to put this on top of a cupcake. I think that would be really pretty. You can attach a whole bunch of these to the side of a cake going up the sides and then have like the ones with the lollipop stick sticking out the top. Just really, really pretty. Again, you can have chocolate or not, and it just has that sort of etching inset into the Isomalt. And it automatically has the color of the Isomalt, but because it's so thin, it made a lighter shade. So in this case, it made like a nice pink. If you did purple, you would have like a nice pastel purple inside of it. So just because it's thinner, it creates a matching tone to match in. And then once we add the white, like we're about to, it will intensify that color a little bit. So I'm not going to overfill these at first. A little piece of hardened chocolate there. I'm just going to do a little... And I don't really want to tap these too hard because I don't want to break them. So I'm just going to kind of shake it back and forth. Just up in the air, so I'm not really adding any blunt force to it. You can use a cookie scribe or a toothpick as well to fill it in. And there we go. So that's really pretty as well, especially if you are more patient than me and you know, get that chocolate sitting nice and flat. That's really pretty as well. We're going to add in to the little ones. But again, underfilling is key here because if you overfill them, you're going to see it go over the edges. So it's better to do too little than too much. Okay, and this chocolate or chocolate in general is oil-based. It's not water, so it's not going to affect the Isomalt like filling this with a liquid water would. So you can save these for however long you would like, because the chocolate is going to set up. It's not going to be consistent liquid across the surface. So I'm just using my piping bag to kind of guide this around, but again, you can use a cookie scribe or a toothpick. I don't really mind that they're not totally flat on the back since mine are going to be seen from the front. There we go. Now, generally chocolate you want to put in the freezer to help it set up. We cannot do that with these because the freezer will affect the Isomalt. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to put them in front of the fan, and a really cold environment will also set up chocolate. So like a lot of, you know, if you're working in like a chocolate room, a chocolatier's kind of work area, it's going to be extremely cold. It could be, you know, 60 degrees in there or lower. That's cold for a Floridian at least. And so it would set up the chocolate naturally. You don't have to necessarily put it in a cooler. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fake it and kind of trick the chocolate into setting up with the fan instead. And because we don't need necessarily like a shiny surface or anything like that that you would get from the hard freeze of a freezer, because they're already just going to be set into the Isomalt, I don't worry about having to get it too cold. I just need it to set up.
Carol thinks it'd be great for making a bunch of them and stacking them offset as a cake topper.
Oh, that would be really pretty. Yeah, I like that a lot. And you can make bigger ones, smaller ones.
Yeah, I like those candy lollipop cakes.
Yeah, I love those too, with the lollipop sticking out of the top.
Yeah.
Alright. Okay, so while those are setting up in front of our fan, I'm going to go ahead and take out the shell that we made. So this is just that clear Isomalt shell here. Just very lightly, carefully unmolding that. Whoop. As you can see, Isomalt is very strong, luckily. Okay, and it doesn't have a perfect edge on the bottom. That's okay, we can clean that up. And it does have those little bubbles on the surface. This way, right? Wait, no, this way. So I can get rid of those, but I want to show you guys my trick to doing that. If you can kind of see that little bubbly surface. Now remember, this is very thin. We did let some of the Isomalt pool down, but it is still very thin, so I don't want to torch and then have all this space up and underneath the lollipop that it starts sinking. I'm going to torch very lightly and then immediately flip it over. I don't like to do this on the silicone mat, or I don't like to flip it onto the silicone mat because there's a texture to this. So I either use one of our yellow silicone mats that don't have a texture, or you can even just use the back of your mold because it's nice and smooth. And I'm going to turn the torch way, way down, so there's just barely a flame there, and do this in sections. So I'm only going to do a tiny spot. I'll show you that spot once it cools down, and then flip it over, because if the piece is how I had it before, sitting up with the gap underneath it, it's going to start sinking. But right now I flipped it back over the way that it was sitting in the mold, so it has something to support underneath. It's completely flat underneath the Isomalt, if that makes sense. So it doesn't let it fall down, it just falls into a flat surface, keeping it flat. Did that make sense? I think it did.
Monique, Helene, and baby puppy Jasper are watching.
Hi guys! Looks like you're having so much fun. The new puppy's so cute. Okay, so if you can see the difference now, which towards me, yeah, towards me. This side is nice and clear, and this side had a little bit of the bubbles. Just waiting to catch up to make sure you guys can see it.
Yeah, looks good.
Cool. So I'll just continue to do that, and that does take a little bit of patience, but it really is worth it. And you could do that in as small or large intervals as you would like to. I might even put that in front of the fan for a second. So whatever you're comfortable with, doing just a tiny spot at once, doing the whole thing, but you should see a difference when you're torching. It shouldn't just be like you're torching and nothing's happening. You should see it getting shinier, and that is a trial and error type of technique. So again, you can remelt these as many times as you need to as you're practicing it, but once you get the feel of the Isomalt and how it melts, it goes a lot faster. Oh, thank you, Carol. There we go. I don't like to do this to the sides because they're not as thick as the base is, so I'm not going to really do that, but I will just kind of go back now that I got the majority of the bubbles away, and I'll just clean up a couple around the edges that I see. You can do this as many times as you want. There's no limit. You just have to make sure that you let it cool in between. Okay. All right. Flipped over. Okay, so I'm just feeling our chocolate next to me here. Feels like they're pretty much set up, so I'll give them just another second in front there. So we need to add the lollipop stick to our shaker. We need to put the shaker together with some sprinkles, and then we'll also talk about sealing and packaging, because it's a little bit different when you're doing something like this that's purely just for an edible form, or maybe you're using it on a cake. I have a couple of different tips I want to share with you guys. So for sprinkles, as far as that goes, for filling up our shaker, I'm going to just use some pearls. I thought they would be very just kind of classic Valentine's to have the pearls in there, but of course you could do little hearts, you can do, you know, just like nonpareils, you can do whatever you like, as long as they're small enough to fit inside of the dome that you made. But we do make our shaker makers pretty deep so that you can fit bigger, like dragees and things inside if you wanted to. Alright, let's see. Okay, so these pieces should be cool. Let's grab these. Okay, so one of my major tips before putting your shakers together is going to be sealing the inside, okay? That's going to make a huge difference in how this is going to go for you, because we don't want the Isomalt to get a little bit sticky from the humidity and for all the sprinkles to stick in one spot, and we also don't want it to get cloudy from the inside out. So you have to glaze the inside of these. So this is just for the shakers. You have to glaze with the clear edible glaze spray the inside before you put them together. That way it's not going to get cloudy. So what I'll do is I'll just put this on a covered surface and then give it a very light coat on the inside. You could do the outside at that point as well, or do it after you put them together and then do both sides. But as long as you do the inside and you let that dry first, your sprinkles are not going to stick. Now this one I'm not going to do that because I don't want to accidentally glaze you guys, and you'll still be able to see it because it's not going to get sticky for a little while. But definitely don't skip that step of adding the glaze, otherwise your shakers are going to get really cloudy and they're going to stick like crazy. Okay.
Carol Ann says hi.
Hi, Carol Ann.
And Jackie would like to know if there's a certain amount of flavoring that you add to the Isomalt.
It depends how much Isomalt that you're using, so it really doesn't take much. I usually only start with a couple drops. If you're just doing a little bowl like I am, again, it's not going to take more than probably a few drops, but it depends on the intensity of the flavor. Unfortunately, they're not all exactly the same intensity, and every brand is going to be different, so I can't really give you like an exact, this is how much to add, but you can taste test it, so mix a little bit in, just a couple drops at a time, and then take your silicone tool, your spatula, or even just pour out a little piece or a little drop on the mat and let it cool. Don't taste test it while it's hot. Let it cool, and then you can taste it and see if it's intense enough for you. If not, you can add more. And then for your future reference, if you want to measure how much Isomalt you're starting with and then keep track of how many drops you put in, then you could replicate that exactly. But for kind of figuring it out with each individual flavor, I would say just taste test it until you have the intensity that you like.
And then like the flavor powder.
Yeah. Yeah, the same thing. If you use the powder, it's going to be different, you know, for every kind of type that you use, so. So again, I would have glazed this already, and then I'm just adding in sprinkles. I don't like to add a ton of sprinkles because you're going to cover up the design if you have too many in there. So I like to maybe just fill like a third of the way or so is my preference, but you can do whatever you would like. Okay. Now another thing you can do to clean up that top edge before you put it down is you can use the electric griddle or like a fry pan on, you know, like a non-stick fry pan over the stove, and you can just press the bottom edge down so it levels off. I'm not going to do that, again, just to save you guys, you know, having to wait for me to do that and heat it up and everything, but you definitely can do that if it's not perfect enough. Okay, so our chocolate now is set up enough that it's not going to drip or drizzle anywhere. It's just nice and set up. Same thing on these guys over here. They're just nice and set up. So you can see that white intensifies the shape a little bit too. It makes it pop slightly more since it's not see-through there, which I think is a really neat sort of effect as well. Turn off my fan. Okay. And I'm just going to go ahead and torch. Now you could do these either way, but I find having the sprinkles in the side that has the raised sides is a little easier. I'm going to try not to burn my sprinkles here. I'm just going to lightly torch the edges here, and then lightly torch the edges here. With gloved hands, I'm going to quickly attach that on. You don't want to wait. And again, with your gloved hands, you can just make sure it's all lined up. Okay. There we go. All right. So I'm going to put that in front of the fan to cool for just a few seconds. All right. And now when you're going to package these, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to use your edible glaze spray. So if you're going to be putting these on a cake where they're going to be out in the air, they're not going to be in a packaging or anything like that, you do want to seal them to make sure they don't get sticky or cloudy. But if you are putting these in an airtight bag right away, you don't necessarily have to use the glaze, but they have to stay airtight at all times. So as soon as that chocolate is cool, you want to put it into a Ziploc, even if it's just one big Ziploc with all of them. Forgot to hit start. Even if it's just one big Ziploc for all of them, you want to make sure that you are keeping them sealed at all times, and then individually, you know, take a couple out, reseal that bag, and then seal these immediately in an airtight container. So not just a fold over bag, it has to be airtight because you want to make sure that no moisture and humidity can get to this. Okay? Alright. There we go. So I'm just melting up a little bit more Isomalt, grabbing my lollipop stick here. Okay. And I think it's a little bit more humid than I realized in here because they are already starting to stick. But there we go.
Got really hot
today. It did. It was really cool, and now all of a sudden today it's really hot. But you can still see they're moving around a little bit in there. But that is actually a good kind of thing to point out is if you don't glaze compared to if you do glaze. You see how those are all still moving around freely in there. Super easy, no sticking at all compared to the one that I did not. So make sure to remember to glaze. But for demo purposes, I'm not worried about that. It actually looks really pretty with all of them just scattered in there and kind of stuck into place.
It does.
Okay, so I just dipped my lollipop stick into some Isomalt and then stuck it to the back. I didn't put it over the chocolate because I don't want to burn the chocolate, but I just put it kind of right up to the bottom part of the heart there. Alright. I'm cooling that into place with my fan, or you could just leave it to cool at room temperature for a little while. Alright, and you can use different colors of chocolate, especially if you do like a clear backing instead of red. You could do different colors of chocolate. You can marbleize them in there if you wanted to, or again, use different fillings. And as long as it's going to set up completely so it's not going to drip out the back, you could use anything that you want to. I think flavored ganaches would be really good because then you can flavor it instead of just chocolate, but this would be more like a Tootsie Pop. Okay. And there we go. So you can see that's just attached right onto the back, so it's on there nice and solid. And I have that chocolate set into the back as well as set into my other little guys here. So of course this is kind of a big lollipop, so this would be more of a focal point lollipop, and then I like having the small ones around it, you know, so that those can be more of the treats. And these are still completely edible, you know, with all the Isomalt and everything in there, and they're a super fun novelty piece. But sometimes the little ones are nice too if you're making a whole lot of them, and then you could just kind of scatter a few of these on the dessert table or, you know, on the presentation of how you are going to set it up. So we have our shakers, we have our regular ones using our little inserts here. Set out my little mold that we used. There we go. What do you guys think? Can you see using this for some Valentine's? Maybe some Easter would be really nice. I have a whole bunch of Easter projects that I have in mind, which brings me to my next playdate that I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek of here in just a second. Okay, so yeah, lots of different ideas. You can fill these with lots of different sprinkles or even little, you know, like you could hand pipe royal icing transfers and have those inside, make your own sprinkles. Those would be really cute. If you have the insert in there, it's a little bit less space for the pieces to move around, but if you leave it even without the insert in there and just did the shakers, you can have lots of bigger decorations kind of moving around in there. You can mix and match with edible papers. I mean, the sky is really the limit with these. You know, decorating on top of them would be really pretty too. There's just so many ways that you could change these up, but they're really pretty, especially if you put them in a nice clear package, maybe a little bow on them. I love how these come out. And then of course they're going to be really, really yummy. Having that chocolate inside, it is very much like a Tootsie Pop. And yeah, so just very easy to DIY and customize it. All right. So let me know if you guys have any questions about the techniques. Let me know what you guys think.
Jessie Ann says she's sorry she's late. She finished with the cake tasting.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, no worries. This project will be saved on my page and on my YouTube channel. So if you guys want to replay it anytime, if you're working on them and you want to go back and look, you definitely can. Oh, thank you guys so much. Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. Let me turn the camera back up. Alright, hello again everybody. Alright, so I mentioned a second ago that I have my next Playdate piece ready to go this time so that I can give you guys a little sneak preview. So I'm having fun with Valentine's Day, but I realized that Easter is coming up really quickly as well as St. Patrick's Day, which I think you could change this one up to as well. But Easter is coming up and I really wanted to do something fun with a stained glass Fabergé egg sort of feel. So I came up with a new cookie project. Which will be this, okay? So we're going to do our stained glass Fabergé egg cookie. Lighting in here is a little bit funky. Let me see if I can get it to pop. And so this is actually a cookie, and it does, in fact, stand up. You can see it has its little feet there. You can see the cookie on the back, and it does stand up. So you can do a freestanding Fabergé egg cookie. I made this one quite big because I wanted a statement cookie, like a focal point, but you can make these smaller too. You can make, you know, more cookie-sized cookies, whatever you like, but I like to go big. And I'll be showing you how to use the cello sheets. We're going to be painting. We're going to be adding the three-dimensional piece, and yeah, I'm super excited to show you guys that. And I did do it on a cello sheet. You can also use different kinds of edible papers, so I'll be going over the differences and how they're going to look. But I am super, super excited to show you guys that. That's going to be on March the 2nd, I believe, is the Saturday.
Maybe.
I think it's March the 2nd. I'm pretty sure. Whatever that's first Saturday. It's the first Saturday in March at 2 p.m. Thank you. 2 p.m. EST right here on the page, just like this one. I do have an accessory kit that's live with this brand new pattern that is inside, and that is going to be on my website right now, and it's discounted 20%, just like all of our accessory kits. So if you want to play along with me and make your own beautiful stained glass Fabergé eggs cookies for Easter, definitely do that because it is going to be really, really fun. All right. Oh, I'm so glad you guys like it.
We have the Skill Social Monday.
We do, yes, thank you. So Monday night is our Skill Social. So if you want to join us and you haven't signed up yet, we do a live Zoom Skill Social, which is just an hour of guided practice around a topic. So this week, or this month for February, we're doing bows. We're doing basic Isomalt bows. It's just $5 to sign up for the Zoom. And then I also started doing a pre-recorded tutorial to go along with it of the techniques. So if you can't make the live, or if you just want to have the recorded tutorial for reference afterwards, I have a bundled price for those if you get them together, or individually. They are $5 each, so I think it's $8 if you get them together. So you have the live that you can come, and we just have fun. We brainstorm ideas, we practice, we play around, we make mistakes. It's super duper fun every single month. So definitely check that out on my website. If you want to sign up, there's still time. It's just an hour on Monday evening. And then let's see, we have my next Zoom class. So my longer Zoom class and online class, because I do a recorded version of that as well, is going to be at the end of February. And that is my Isomalt Glassworks cake. So taking blown glass techniques and using them with Isomalt. Isomalt. So we're going to create a hanging blown Isomalt topper, cake topper, and cake as well, or one of each, whichever one you want to do in the project. So all the info for that is on my website, and the sign up for that is still open as well. All right. Oh, I'm so glad you guys like it. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that you guys enjoyed this demo. Am I missing any questions? Did I forget anything? I think that was everything for February. I think we're good. Okay. So I always keep you guys updated, so make sure to follow me if you're not on my Facebook page and my Instagram. I have TikTok, I have YouTube, all that fun stuff. And yeah, join the Simi Torch team. We have an amazing group on Facebook, our Simi Torch team. Make sure to join if you want all things Isomalt. It's for all levels. It's no drama. It's just super duper fun. We have our deals going on as well. The air casting molds are on sale exclusive for Torch team members this month, and we have our Torch team bingo is coming up. I forgot about that. Ooh. That's on the 16th. I believe we decided to do Friday night from popular vote, and so that is going to be super fun. You can earn or win Simi reward points. Everybody who attends and plays is going to get a coupon code, and we're going to play some bingo. So make sure to join us in the Torch team for that, and join if you're not a part of it.
We forgot to shut the sale off.
Oh yes, I did realize we were doing a sale for our 16th year in business anniversary of SimiCakes.com. We were doing an Isomalt sale, and I forgot to shut it off, but I might just forget to shut it off until Valentine's Day. So if you need anything, get it now because it's still on sale. So that's the tiles and the bulk, all colors, okay? Even our new colors that we just came out with. So make sure to check that out if you haven't yet and snag those because we don't do Isomalt sales very often. All right. Oh, Monday's your birthday! Oh, that's so exciting! Happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
All right.
Early.
All right, fantastic. Okay, well, I hope you guys have a great rest of your Saturday and a great weekend and a great Valentine's Day as well. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you guys in my next class. All right, bye guys. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.